Welcome, JF. Just putting you on spotlight and quick introduction to JF. So JF is a MCC coach. He became the global executive coach and speaker in 2006 in the wake of career in management around the world with a Fortune 500 company. He is passionate about enabling leaders, teams, organizations to unleash more of their greatness and wrote a fable about such endeavors, Game Changers at the Circus. He's currently based out of Bangkok and he's a avid traveler, has engaged clients and audiences in 35 countries over 6 continents. Wow. He has clocked 15,000 hours and 1,500 executive and dozens of executive teams. So, welcome, JF, and over to you.
Thanks very much, Ashara, and thank you to each and every one of you for joining today, especially as this is the last mile of the year and also the beginning of holidays for some of you. So much gratitude for being with us for this conversation we're going to have about coaching with a language barrier. And to get into the topic, I'm going to set the stage, right? And start by showing you something as soon as I regain control of my computer. And here we go. All right. Elements of context here. As you noticed, right, coaching does not always have a good rap about it, and some otherwise respected publications go as far as saying perhaps it's a scam, right? So we all know the reasons, right? And the question is, what do we need to stop doing, perhaps in our own capacity as coaches, to give less fuel to that bad rap, right? We've got to take it personally. And some years ago, in the yearly free worldwide business executive coaching summit, I did a list of the guilty coaches who give a bad rap to coaches to coaching, and there was one of them that was this cool fellow, in fact, who would coach people with such bad questions as, wouldn't it be cool to try, or hey, have you thought about, or hey, how about you do this or that, right? Well, the guy is on Instagram, right? And at the beginning, he gathered quite a number of thousands of followers, less so these days. So, but yeah, he got quite successful. And here you see him drinking tea. Or is he? Hey, yeah, the guy is virtual intelligence, right? Actually, he's the most famous, perhaps, or at least the first famous Japanese male virtual influencer, named Liam. And well, this need to stop, right? And we can also do bad coaching, and we've got to figure out how not only we can do better, but also be better, and for sure do some things or be some things that AI cannot match, right? And that's really the profound idea behind tonight's conversation, right? Just before we get there, I'd love to just sprinkle a few more bad things that happen in coaching, and that's when coaches can believe I do, therefore I am, and as a consequence of that core belief, right? If I do more, I am more. And then there is terrible disempowering impact on the coachee. Or we can also be culprit of preparing our next question while the client is still talking, and therefore losing touch with where the client is, yeah, or seeking to do a perfect job, which is so very delusional, yeah, or do any work that the client could do, and then of course has to do to get stronger, right? Or perhaps we can look at time and kind of stop the client thinking because, hey, it's time to take action, right? Or being just a nice coach, which is absolutely not nice, right? Because clients need to get stronger, and nice coaches do not enable clients to get stronger. The list is much longer than that. And I thought, what can we do, right, as a collective to just perhaps open other possibilities? Some ideas came to my mind. The first one is just simply discarding the doing of coaching, and instead choosing to go for it with just 3 beliefs. One is that the client aspires to grow clearer and stronger. We want to reintegrate that, right? And second, wisdom from Lao Tzu, a Chinese philosopher, right? To the still mind, the whole universe surrenders. And 3, from the same philosopher, at the center of your being, you have the answer, you know who you are, and you know what you want. So I'll do a demo with one of you who will volunteer in a couple of minutes, yeah, from now, and I will apply those principles, but not just that. I will also work with that belief that energy never lies. That energy, for that matter, is the most precious partner of coaches in coaching. And I mean the energy of the client and also the own energy of the coach, right? And emotions may be manipulative somewhat, or a bit fake, or lie in some way, right? The language, of course, can, right? But the energy, no. And there's more to that, actually, idea that energy is precious, and that's from Albert Einstein, right? You remember reading that before. Energy, well, everything's energy, right? And that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot but help get that reality. It can be no other ways. And this is not philosophy. This is simple physics, right? So I'm going to invite one of you to join me as a coaching in a brief coaching conversation. And I'm going to invite you to speak a language that I do not understand. And that's easy because I only understand English and French, right? The rest, not a clue, right? So that we see how transformational or not a coaching session can be when the coach works without the language of the client and can only rely on the energy of the client, perhaps some of the emotions, certainly the body language, and other non-verbal signals, in fact, right? And anchoring the being of the coach in the 3 beliefs that I mentioned before. So at this stage, I'd love to invite one of you to volunteer to be my coachee. And the invite is just as long as you speak to me in a language I don't understand, and that's a language that's really comfortable with you, right? Hopefully perhaps your native language, right? So who'd like to volunteer?
I can volunteer if you'd like.
Sure, of course, Ashara, that's a pleasure. So let me put you full screen here, and I'm inviting everyone, right? And as we go through this short exercise to, as coaches, ask yourself, what would I do next if I could not understand what Ashwara is saying, right? So kind of put you in my shoes with that very big constraint of not understanding the words, right? So, okay, so then Aishwarya, I invite you to turn on the camera. I invite everyone else to turn off your camera so we have a sense of intimacy together with Aishwarya, yeah, and then we're gonna go. And before we start, Aishwarya, could you let me know if you need anything to become fully present to our conversation?
Hi, JF. Just a question. So Juliet is right now the volunteer, right? So
Oh,
she
all
would
right.
be the
Oh, that's Juliet.
coach.
My,
Yeah,
my
yeah.
misunderstanding. All right. Thanks very much. Well, Juliet, a warm welcome to you, and my apologies for not
No
understanding.
worries.
Oh my God, thanks so much for volunteering. How are you?
Я могу сразу отвечать на языке, который вы не поймете. Oops. Belonging to this session. Yeah, I just decided to try.
Yeah.
I'm doing fine, thank you. I'm very happy to participate in this call. Thank you for your presentation. And if I would have to respond to what would be my reaction if I talk to a client and I don't understand a word, well, I would think about how did I got into this situation because it's not easy, right? But if I'm already there, I would just try to observe as much as I can, just the body language, emotions, and everything. I would just listen. I think that's the best you can do if you cannot actually talk. And if they would stop at some point and they would ask me something, even if I don't get what it is, I would try to use the gesticulation. So
Yeah.
trying to communicate in this way, if they ever stop. As we know, it doesn't happen very often.
Okay, well, Juliet, I'm going to follow your advice, right? And then we're going to start. And so I invite you to speak in that beautiful language that you greeted me with. And what language is it, by the way, Juliet?
I'm going to speak Ukrainian.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Oh my.
I don't know if we have anyone in the group who can understand it because for that will be probably more funny. But if I just look at the names, it's not.
Unlikely.
No. Yeah, I
Unlikely,
don't think
right?
so.
All right.
Exactly.
Wow, great. Thanks. So, Juliet, from now on, I invite you to speak to me in Ukrainian, right? And just as we get started, Juliet, I want to know if you need anything to become just relaxed and still inside and fully present to our conversation.
Ні, все гаразд. Я себе дуже гарно почуваю. В мене тут є чай зі мною, так що я готовлюсь відійти до сну.
And there we go. And I'm curious also, Juliet, what would you like to explore today?
Let me ask the clarifying question. So I also operate under the assumption that you don't understand the language I'm speaking, right?
I don't, yeah.
So I'm aware of that fact.
But let it go. Just speak to me in Ukrainian, right? I will understand absolutely nothing, right? And don't bother about that, right? Don't make it easy for me. Just be your great self.
Гаразд. Я думаю, що я хотіла би попрацювати над такою темою, що зараз кінець року я хотіла би зробити якісь підсумки, зробити плани на наступний рік, але я маю настільки багато роботи зараз, що в мене немає часу на це. І мене це дратує. Я відчуваю дуже багато тиску. Можу сказати стресу, щоб дати вам якусь підказку. І я думаю, як я можу це виправити.
Yeah, thanks. And Juliette, can I invite you now to take a few deep breaths? And then after the few deep breaths, tell me what's the most important in all of what you've offered to me already?
Мгм. Саме важливо це те, що я дуже часто не встигаю робити якісь речі, і то касається моєї можливості управляти моїм часом. І це в мене дуже давно, це не нова штука. Це мене дуже дратує, я не знаю, як це виправити.
Yeah. And now, Juliette, you seem less comfortable. Maybe I get this wrong, right? If it's right, what is the discomfort about?
It's mainly that it's with me
Oh,
for literally my...
Ukrainian, yep.
Okay, you see, I switched
Sorry.
into English automatically. Окей, я думаю, що мене дратує, я відчула, що я себе відчуваю некомфортно, як ти сказав, але якщо я на цю тему подумаю, то це від того, що ця проблема зі мною у всю мою життя, все життя.
And thanks for sharing. And I heard sharing from your head brain, right, Juliette? And if you'd interrogate your heart brain, what would the heart say about this?
Я гадаю, що я почула, що я можу це змінити. Це у моїх можливостях.
And if you go even deeper into your body, right, to the guts level, right, like at the belly level, right, the guts, right, what would the guts say about this?
Я лінива.
Anything else? Yeah. Okay. And with those insights from your head brain, your heart brain, your gut brain, what could be a very valuable objective for our coaching conversation today, Juliette?
Ну, таке дуже смішне буде просто взяти, поставити це собі за план до наступного року. Не перейматися дуже зараз, тому що в мене було дуже багато завдань, котрі я повинна була завершити до кінця цього року. І якщо я вирішу, що це для мене дійсно важливо, то немає проблем. Це більше проблема всередині в мені, що, ну, це лінуюсь.
And if you would simplify that objective, Juliette, in a very short sentence, what would the short sentence be?
Сказати, що я контролюю це. Я можу це контролювати.
Yeah, can you say that again, please, Juliette?
Що я можу це взяти під контроль.
Okay. So where would you like to start our exploration?
Я думаю, що саме важливо це встановити якийсь пріоритет. Тому що це допоможе мені управляти часом своїм. менш перейматися з того, що я роблю кожного дня, бути більш сфокусованою на тому, що мені потрібно зробити. Тобто, якщо я буду мати план, якщо я буду мати пріоритети, я зможу з цим справитись. I think, yeah.
Yeah, no more to say on this one. All right. So, which part of you was telling me what you just expressed? Was it the head, the heart, something else in the body?
I think the issue itself was more logical.
Ukrainian,
Oh,
yes.
okay. 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 Tell me when I can switch, okay? Because I thought you were asking already.
Only
Yeah,
after
yeah,
we finish. Yeah, thanks.
Problem. Yeah, sure. Я думаю, що це більше логіка, тому що я знаю про цю проблему, вона мене дратує кожного дня. І мені здається, що я стараюсь її виправити, але якось я так стараюсь, що ось це життя я не можу цього зробити. Це дуже смішно, навіть мені зараз, коли я вам про це розповідаю.
Yeah, and thanks for sharing the smile. And what is the smile in itself expressing about the topic? I'm curious, Juliette.
Що я себе сама обдурюю. Тобто я відчуваю, що це така проблема, така велика, так важливо її вирішити, вона така важлива для мене, і що я нічого не можу з цим зробити. А взагалі, якщо я дійсно подумаю над тим, що я у своєму житті робила вже, і що я можу, то це взагалі не проблема. Тобто, я думаю, що тут справа у тому, що я не можу для себе прийняти рішення, що я хочу. І це смішно, тому що це дає мені дуже багато стресу.
I have a sense you just learned a lesson. Is that correct or not, Juliette?
Я можу погодитись з цим. Я думаю, що я ніколи про цю проблему так не думала і не озвучувала її.
Yeah. And I wonder, Juliette, can I invite you to perhaps stand up and take a few steps in the room? So disappear from the screen, right? Take a few steps and try to gather a few more ideas about the topic that you are reflecting about. Would that be okay?
Я можу спробувати, навіть якщо я вас не розумію. You're not gonna see me.
And walk around the room and stop when you feel like it and just pick ideas as they come to you.
Я можу сказати, що я відчуваю, що я як застряла в тому стані, і навіть якщо мене це дратує дуже, дуже багато років, і мені інші люди про це говорять, але я ніколи не намагалася це змінити. Насправді, так? Тобто я думала, що я намагалася, я думала, що це важливо, що мені щось потрібно для того, щоб я це могла зробити, а насправді я просто навіть не вкладала у світ. І це буде дуже цікаво, якщо зможу це змінити.
Yeah. So okay. I sense a variation in a difference in your energy now as compared to before. And maybe I'm wrong, right? Juliette, you will know if there is a difference in your energy now as compared to before you standing up. What could that difference in energy be about?
Я думаю, що сама по собі енергія не змінилася, але від того, що я зрозуміла, що я ніколи не намагалася насправді це виправити, мені стало легше, тому що я розумію причину усього цього. Тобто, то не від того, що я походила по кімнаті, а від того, що я отримала таку з приводу, чому це происходить.
Yeah. And thanks for sharing that, Juliet. Is there something even deeper in your unknown wisdom about the topic that perhaps you can bring out?
Я думаю, якщо я зроблю, що я не розумію, що ти від мене хочеш, як це буде? Я можу сказати, що я не знаю, що ти хочеш.
Yeah.
I don't get you. What do you want?
Okay. I was just inviting you, Juliette, to look or feel deeper into yourself, right? To see if there was any more knowledge available to enlighten the topic, you know, just anything else.
Ну да, ти дуже такий гарний, що не можна прямо даже зробити як приклад, якщо клієнт не розуміє. Окей, гаразд. Тоді я думаю, що важливо для мене розуміння сьогодні неочікувано, що якщо я дійсно хочу щось отримати, виправити чи досягнути, я це можу. А якщо в мене щось не виходить, тому що я застрягла чи щось, як я відчуваю себе останні декілька місяців, то це тому, що я або не знаю, чого я хочу, або я прикладаю зусиль до цього. І це дуже важливо.
And with all of what you've offered now in this exploration, Juliette, what do you want to do next?
Я думаю, що основне досядження сьогоднішнього розмови – це те, що я зрозуміла, що не то, щоб я хочу щось зробити, але не можу, а я насправді не дуже хочу з цим щось робити, чи це не так важливо, чи може для мене це окей. А що я хочу зробити? Я думаю, що не перейматися з приводу тих речей, котрі не важливі на справі, а дивитися на те, що якщо щось мене дратує, то чому я застрягла? Оце важливо. Оце дуже важливо. Тобто я застрягла тому, що я не можу, чи я застрягла тому, що це не моє, чи я застрягла тому, що я не знаю, що я хочу, чи я того не хочу, чи щось, чи просто щось стоїть на путі.
And Juliette, if you would summarize the most important in what you just expressed, what would that be?
Коли ти знаєш, чого ти хочеш, ти можеш цього досягнути, і це буде легко.
And Juliette, how can you, or rather, sorry, what type of energy do you need to move forward?
Я думаю, що більш рішучості такої з мого боку. Ну, не робити оцей день сурка, як сказав творець, а просто свідомо вибирати, що я хочу робити і як цього досягнути. І якщо я знаю, чому я це хочу, я зможу це швидко отримати. Зараз в мене просто така ситуація, що я не знаю, чого я хочу, тому що все дуже незрозуміло, нестабільно, непонятно, незрозуміло.
Okay. And then, Juliette, if you are clear already about the type of energy you need to move forward with all of your insights to get to that objective you decided, yeah? Yeah, then if you're clear with that energy, can you send it to me? So I try to understand it. Can you project that energy toward me?
Я думаю, що навіть зараз мені це важко, тому що я спочатку должна зрозуміти, що я хочу. І це не те, щоб важко, але я ще не знаю. Тому мені буде дуже нелегко відправити цю енергію до тебе, щоб ти його почув.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel it. Can you send it stronger to me, Juliette,
No.
please?
No.
No. Okay. So I'll tell you what I sensed. I sensed an energy of linearity, which means simplification and focus to move forward. Does this resonate or not at all?
Kind of, yes.
It's still in Ukrainian.
Oh, we haven't finished yet. Okay.
No, almost.
Ну, я думаю, що да, ти дуже багато питань до мене ставиш, і я вже ти правильно почув це, тому що я готова вже йти робити, нічого я хочу, а ти все намагаєшся запитати мене знову і знову і знову, щоб я ще якось розповіла про те, що мені потрібно. Да нічого мені вже не потрібно, я вже готова йти. Це мене це почуває дратувати теж. Зараз тебе вкушу.
Okay. So there is more to that energy or something else, or it's something else, right, Juliette? Can you perhaps try and project it to me again?
Can I do what once again?
Project the energy, right? Boom. You create the energy in your body that you need to move forward, right? And I would like to sense it, yeah.
Ну, я так не працюю. В мене так не працює. Тому якщо ти хочеш, щоб я тобі тут на місці зробила оцю енергію і показала, і так далі, це не то, як в мене працює. В мене дуже важливо зрозуміти, чому. І коли це усвідомлення з'являється, тоді я думаю, що наступного дня я ще подумаю, ще проаналізую це, і тоді я зможу йти. Але мені вже легше, тому що я розумію, в чому причина.
Okay. So then thanks, Juliette. I'm curious to know, I've not felt the energy, right, Juliette, but I guess probably it's because you were expressing something about that and not sending it to me. Just are you clear about the type of energy you need to move forward, Juliette? Yeah?
Ну, тому що я ж говорю, в мене це по-іншому. Я не буду зараз на камеру показувати, скільки енергії, і все таке. Для мене більш важливе розуміння, чому це відбувається. І потім я можу це змінити.
And now, Juliette, I'm sensing more like inner clarity and some more calm and some determination. Is that correct, or perhaps it's not? It's something else.
Я думаю, що я погодилася, але для мене ти дуже затягуєш цю сесію. Тобто це якось таке відпустить мене вже щось робити. Тобто я думаю, що з точки зору енергії ти правильно це бачиш, але ти не можеш почути енергію, тому що в мене це працює через логічний процес.
Okay, and now I have a sense that you've liberated yourself from perhaps some constraints or something, and maybe I get that wrong, right? I have no. You'll tell me later, right? But then perhaps in conclusion, Juliette, if there is one thing you have learned about you, right? You, Juliette, right? In that very short conversation we've just had, what is it?
Я зараз чую, що ти не закінчив своє питання.
Yeah, and how can that knowledge about you, Juliette, can help your future?
Ну, я думаю, що те ж саме, якщо я бачу, що в мене щось не працює, ну, скажімо так, швидко та легко, то мені треба подумати, чи це вірний напрямок для мене, чи я дійсно того хочу, чи воно не виходить в мене, тому що я не знаю, чого я хочу, чи я не у тому напрямку рухаюсь. Я думаю, що це саме важливо.
Thanks very much, Juliette. And then we're going to go back into both speaking English, right? Juliette, I want to thank you for playing that a bit crazy game, right? And the pedagogical intent, right, is to just evaluate what can be transformational, if anything, and what can happen when the coach doesn't understand the language. So we are all super curious, Juliette, to learn from you what first the session was about in whichever area you're willing to share, right? And also what was helpful, what was not helpful in this particular exercise.
I think again that throughout the entire exercise, and once again, thank you, because you did really well, in my opinion, because it's not easy, right? So throughout the whole exercise, I was coachy, but I also thought if I would talk to someone like that, so I tried a few times to say that I don't understand what you're saying. Can you repeat it in my language, right? And then imagine if this happens, right? Because if we assume that you don't speak my language, English, then it's easier because at least I can understand the input. But if we both speak completely different languages, then it's literally impossible, because the moment I say like, what is that you meant? I feel like you didn't finish your sentence at the end. And then you just moved on to the next one. So this is when the magic is lost, because I can understand that you have no idea what I'm talking about. You have no idea when I ask you a question. Yeah. So I tried to a few times ask you something in return instead of answering, right? So to kind of be a difficult client, somewhere in the middle. But overall, I think you did well. The only thing which was a bit difficult for me by the end, because you wanted to feel the energy.
Yes.
And first, my issue is a bit more logical.
Yeah.
So I don't need to, and I cannot, probably it's just the way I operate. I cannot just, show you this energy and you feel it and, I'm ready to move on. But that's exactly how I intend. So I have this insight, but it's not something everyone will see, kind of, right? So determination is there. You actually described it, but you were really pushing me like, show me the energy. I'm like, no, it's not my way. I'm not going to show it to you. Stop asking me. Because at this stage, I feel like it's getting too long and you keep asking me the same thing over and over. And I get a bit frustrated, right?
Yeah.
So that's the delicate balance. So I think the important part, if I would have to do something like this, is to keep digging deeper. And you did it really well, because you would ask me like, what's your heart, what's your brain, what's your heart, what's your gut feeling is telling you, and if you would have to summarize. And this is what gives you a lot of insights. But then at the end, for me personally, it was like a bit too long. And I'm like, okay, can you just let me go already? I know what to do. Just let me go.
Yeah.
That was my personal experience throughout the session.
Yeah, so great. Thanks so much, Juliet. So actually, and it's so interesting, right? It was a topic that needed to be mostly treated at the cerebral level, right? It was a topic of
Yeah,
rational.
it's basically multitasking, overload, and at the end of the year, I'm stressed. I need to do a lot of stuff, and I need to plan for the next year. And I know both things are important, and I'm literally like completely not disorganized, but like firefighting mode, right? That was my request. And that's why it's more logical.
Yeah.
Because what was important once I got the insight why it's happening, and it was not related to that specific case, it's just a repeating thing, it's like a pattern which I have, then it was more important to understand that I'm not really trying to fix it. So I feel stressed because I cannot fix it, but actually I never tried. So the deeper insight, I mean, I think that's really well done from your side that you managed within short period of time publicly while I'm speaking Ukrainian in the demo, still achieve the result as a coach. So I got the insight. And I felt so there was a change in the health lighter. That's true. I saw some people were posting about that. But it was mainly because I got clarity why. And
Yeah.
once I got clarity, I'm like, oh, I know what to do about this. Every time when I feel like I'm stuck and I want to fix things, but I cannot because of whatever reason, I'm tired or I have too many things on my plate, I need to basically stop and analyze everything I'm trying to do, because my feeling is that it's not like I'm stuck, or it's not because it's too tough. It's because I have no idea what I want, really. And maybe I'm just moving in the wrong direction. And that's why I'm literally trying to do steps without actually doing anything. And it's like a groundhog day.
Yeah.
That's the insight. Yeah.
Okay, which is really important. Yeah. Wow. And thanks for sharing. And I guess the topic resonates with probably all of us, right? At some stage. Thanks very much, Juliet. And to our friends in the conversation who joined perhaps after we got started and who are thinking, why are we doing this? So we are not doing this to encourage anyone to coach anybody in a language that they don't understand, right? That is absolutely not the point. Why would we deprive ourselves of the added value of the language? Why would we deprive ourselves of understanding the questions that the client may have for us when they don't understand the question, right? So it's not for you to do the same ever, right? It's for you to see that even when we don't understand the language, there is some transformation possible so that you de-stress about not understanding everything that the language say with their words, right? Remember, language is only 10% of the communication. We know that since we are kids at school, right? And the body language, the energy, the emotions are massively important, right? And too many coaches obsess about understanding the client's words, which is rationally a delusion, because not even the client can understand all of what is in their mind, right? So why would we have any chance, right? So the whole purpose of the demo today is to distress you all when you do not understand all of the verbal communication of the client, and see that as an invitation to mine other ways of communication in the client's body, because that is where a lot of value awaits to be freed, in fact, right? Okay. Right. So next time you don't understand what your client is saying, think of this session and say, well, Juliet and JF, they did that like crazy experiment and they got some value out of it, right? Not as much, of course, if JF would have understood what Juliet was saying, right? Far from it, but still, right? And some value that perhaps a junior coach obsessed with the words of Juliet and just only that would not have enabled Juliet to find. And that, Juliet, is a question to you, really. Yeah.
So I actually this experiment with the language, because I looked at everyone and maybe someone speaks Ukrainian, so the topic was still safe, but I did it as a real session, right? The fact that you have no idea what I'm talking about actually made it easier because you cannot help. Because if you hear my words and you hear me talking about stuff and I kind of don't want to admit something, go there, then I can just say things and I can wait for you to kind of work with it. I don't have to find the solution because you understand what I'm talking about. In this case, because no one understands and it's like a simulation, you don't know what I'm saying. You cannot help, which frees me up to work myself more. That's a very interesting insight, actually.
It's super powerful, right? And at the core, some of you may have heard me say that many times before, right? I always say the same thing. There is this misconception that coaches are paid to help people grow. That is a gross misunderstanding. We are not paid to help people grow. We're not in the business of helping people. We are in the business of enabling people to empower themselves to grow. It's a totally different ballgame. We are enablers of self-empowerment by clients to grow. It's really fundamental to coaching, right? And this little crazy experiment is indeed preventing me from any wrong desire I would have to help Juliet. Juliet does not need my help. She's an adult. She's wonderful. She just needs a space where she can be enabled to empower herself to grow. And that, of course, was absolutely easier in that environment where, like you say, Juliet, I could not help you. I didn't want to either. Anyway, it's not my job, yeah? Wonderful. Thanks very much. Now, for those of you who thought, wow, this is a little bit conceptual, right? And thanks for the feedback. I'm going to become very practical, right? But I just before giving you tips, right? So you can experiment with them in a very practical way. I want to say the most profound thing here is again from Lao Tzu, right? In coaching, the way to do is to be, right? So strive to be the coach, embody coaching versus doing, right? And the disciples of Lao Tzu from the Wu Wei school of philosophy 3,600 years ago, right, said knowing when not to do anything is the key to having everything done, right? Which also was at play here because I could not do anything for Juliet anyway, right? All right, so it's very important. Now we move to the practical tips, right? That you can play with. It's not recommendations, right? It's just things for you to play with and try out, right? It's very important that you adjust your energy and the energy of your client to a productive level at the start of your conversation, right? Which is why Juliet and I, over the first minute or two, kind of calmed down and met in a space where we could be together productive, right? And that's where you want to be warm, so the space is safe, and you want to be calm and like a still lake, right? It's also important that you ask your client to cleanse their mind, right, or their heart of anything that could disturb their full presence to the conversation. And of course, I invited Juliet to do that. And it can be also very helpful if you think the client needs to calm down further, to invite them to take a few deep breaths. I asked Juliet to take a few deep breaths, but not for that purpose. I asked Juliet to take a few deep breaths to mobilize her whole body, right? That's also a benefit when we do deep breathing, that we reconnect our guts, our heart and our mind. And that will considerably facilitate the progress of the reflection, right? So beside, connecting the whole body through breathing, heart, head, and guts, right? You also want, before you ask for an objective for a session, right? To inquire about what's most important, of course. And I asked Juliet, right? At the deepest level, and then invite clients to simplify the problem, which is very, very difficult, right? Simplifying is the ultimate sophistication, like Leonardo da Vinci said, right? I invited Juliet to do that, right? And all of that really fosters progress and helps accelerate the resolution of what needs to be resolved, right? It's also important in our job, right? And I could not do that today because I could not understand what Juliet was telling me. That we unleash our clients' imagination and intuition, because Albert Einstein said, right? I believe in intuition and inspiration. I sometimes feel that I am right, and he is, but he doesn't know he is, right? And so, again, I could not do that with Juliet because I would need to understand the language, right? But detecting metaphors, inviting clients in the language of the metaphor to explore what message those metaphors can carry is very useful. Visual clients, you can invite them to draw what they see, without words, just colors, lines, shapes, right? And then question them in a very clean way, right? Not making any assumption about what the shape are, and of course, question the gut feel, right? Because the knowledge of the guts is most precious, right? There's a lot of knowledge about the purpose, right? In that core part of our body where we have most of our energy generated, And then, of course, it's important, whether you understand the language of the client or not totally, that you make sense of their energy and their energy shifts, right? And when you do so, and you've heard that from me many times, you don't want to assert that you've seen an energy shift or qualify the energy with no caveat, right? So that's why I recommend you say, hey, may I share? I believe I sense a special energy in you, or a change in your energy, and maybe I'm wrong, right? You'll tell me, right? Did you sense anything? And maybe you can investigate further. Is the client say, yeah, there was something that happened inside, right? And then what is it about? What could be the message from it, right? That will be very powerful, again, for the same reason, right? And then invite, of course, clients to simplify, shorten, summarize, to really catch the essence of what's expressed, right? And then something powerful as well that resonates with what Einstein says, right? About if you match the energy of the reality that you want, you cannot help but get that reality. Which is why I invited Juliet in this case without benefit, because the session, the topic was absolutely not lending itself to the exercise. But I invited Juliet, not knowing, to send me the energy, right? It's very, very powerful when you do that with the clients once they've articulated their action plan, and you ask, okay, what is the type of energy you need to make that action plan happen, right? Okay, so can you send me that energy, right? And then you get it, or you don't. And if you don't, you ask the client to send it again, right? Once in a while, you won't do that, of course, because the client resolution do not lend themselves to such exercise, right? As with Juliet today. But most cases, Okay, and with this, I'm going to stop sharing, just letting you see a few more slides that you will get in the that later. Everybody, this is your song.
Know your favorite music.
No, it's not, right? But not necessarily, but good enough. Now we still have 5 minutes, right? I rushed a bit with the tips, but again, no worry, you didn't have to take notes, anyone, right? Because you'll get the slide deck, right? And this is our space for questions to Juliet, to me, and also, more important than questions, perhaps, your insights into the topic, your knowledge that you want to offer to everyone in our conversation as well. Yeah, so who'd like to go first? Who'd like to go second then?
Thank you so much, JF. It was a great session. I would request all of you, I know all of you had been putting up messages and questions on the chat box. So I would like all of you to come off mute and just ask the question and get your questions cleared.
Yeah, let's start with you.
Okay, so Juliet, I have a question for you. While you were actually trying to think and reflect and talk, was it a struggle for you to make choice of words so that in the back of your mind it was, you were conscious that Jean is not able to understand what you're saying? So, I mean, apart from actually reflecting on the problem or whatever, trying to follow what Jean was asking you to do, were you also struggling with the words in the Ukrainian language so that John understands what you want to convey?
I think again, what I mentioned is that I got to the insight quick. And JF was asking me like to elaborate more, to rephrase, to like show the energy, to what is that I need to get to that level and actually make it happen and so on. So again, I could not just do this to him because he would ask me a question, and even if it's basically the same thing, which I kept repeating kind of over and over at the end, so it was a bit too long for me. But it's all right. So there is again a balance, like I mentioned. There is a balance until it's very useful because you phrase stuff, you come up with new things and new insights, and then at some point the insight stops and it just turns into like, okay, can we move on to something else? But again, it's also my personality. In terms of struggling with the choice of word in Ukrainian, it was actually me thinking as I speak. I do it very often when I talk interviews throughout the day, right? So I have to process CVs and people's experience and understand them well. And very often when I try to respond to them or I try to kind of see if I'm right in my understanding of the person, the same thing happens. So it's I think it's my way of processing stuff. And that's okay if I speak that way, because at the end I get to the point and usually it's useful.
What is the language in which you think? Like we in India, while our mother tongues are not English, a whole lot of us think in English. We are more comfortable with English than our mother tongue. So what is the language in which you think?
Yeah. From that perspective, the same with me. It's not easy for me to speak Ukrainian. And I'm actually surprised I managed to do pretty much everything in Ukrainian, and it was good. So if anyone would do a recording and give to listen to your friends, I'm actually proud it worked. But I haven't used it for a long time. Okay. And I think and write for many years in English. So it was a language problem as well.
Yeah, great. I mean, one great learning for me, which you mentioned also, was that, it actually set you free when you realize that the coach doesn't understand your language, which somehow the other,
he cannot help. I cannot put responsibility on him. So I'll tell him something and then let him figure out, because that's the game which happens sometimes, right? During the coaching sessions. I can see that. Yeah. So that's a very good design. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thanks to both of you. Very good job.
Yeah, and remember, right, the point is not for anyone to do that, right? It would be crazy, right? The point is just to see that there is so much we can gain already, and that we usually will not gain because we tend to just play with the client's words and we miss so much, right? Thanks very much again. Let's go to Mr. Patel and then Anita. Yeah, Mr. Patel.
Hi, Jean, and hi, Juliet, everybody on the call. Thank you very much for this wonderful session. Great learning. And Juliet, I agree with Chandraketu, who said that the point you made about pressure not being there is so important. John, my question to you is, that whilst body language, voice tonality, facial expressions, movement of the hands speak a lot, end of the day, what we realize is that if you don't really understand the words spoken, And forget about just understanding the words spoken. If you don't understand the nuances of the words, there could be deadlock situations. Because, for example, Juliet said that she was repeatedly telling you in Ukrainian language that she can't understand what you're saying, or come again, and you were not taking that on. In fact, you were going, if I may use the word, a little tangential. So therefore, is it...
Oh, you're on mute, Mr. Patel. If you can unmute yourself.
Is it therefore advisable to get into a coach-coachee engagement if you both don't understand the language very well? Because
No.
body language, etc., can take you to a certain level, but beyond that, there could be deadlock situations.
Yeah, and thanks for asking the question. My recommendation would be no. You don't want to coach. You don't want to coach people whose language you don't understand, right?
Sure.
There is no point, right? But the only point, right? And sorry for repeating myself, right? Is to invite you to use a lot more of the energy and the emotion and the body language, right? Which we tend to underuse, and it's a big mistake. Yeah, but yeah,
I fully appreciate that.
Yeah, we should not coach people whose language we don't understand, right? Because we miss the nuance, like you said, and so much more. Yeah, thanks a lot, Mr. Patel. And then Anita, please, it's so good to see you again.
Yes, how wonderful, Jean-Francois. I'm not on video, I'm in my pajamas, so please excuse me.
Sure.
It was such a great demonstration. I don't have a question. For me, it's really, my takeaway is just how much we can listen with our bodies and not just in a cerebral level to the language alone. And I think that is just so powerful for me. And sometimes we have clients who tend to think in a very linear manner. And Juliet later explained that I cannot give you this energy. Whatever energy you're asking of me, I cannot do that. And then how do we navigate around that? So it was a masterful display. It was a masterful demonstration. Thank you both for this incredible experience.
Thanks a lot, Anita. It's so good to hear you again. And then the last question goes to Miss Sinha. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Hi. Thank you, both of you. It was a wonderful experience for me. Jean, the question is for you. When I am starting to listen beyond words, and you compelled us to start defocusing from words and then start thinking beyond words. But if the client or if the coachee has a very even kind of tone and there's not much expression coming across, I was struggling that how do I go beyond that?
Yeah, this may be difficult, right? And yet the situation is calling for us to enable clients to empower themselves to leverage more than just their cerebral functioning, in fact, right? If they are monotone and just like cerebral in their communication, they are missing a lot about the inner knowledge of their body, right? And so we want, in those cases, right, we're not going to make that happen in just one session, right? And we also want to go slow because they may feel that it's very uncomfortable and they don't feel enough trust in us, perhaps, to try and explore what their heart has to express or feels about something, or their guts, right? In some countries with very strong regime over decades, right? I can see my clients have enormous difficulties in accessing their guts, right? Because the regime don't want them to, and that's for decades, right? So sometimes they reach for their heart, but never to the guts, right? So okay, that will take a lot of time, but of course the guts and the heart can be activated, right? So go slow. It's worth being softly persistent, right? Very gentle. And then you have the client communicating with their whole self, right? Literally, right? And not just with their tiny little left brain, right? That knows so much less than the whole body, right? Thanks for the question.
Thank you. And I want to say thank you, Juliet, for the courage you displayed. I couldn't have done that.
Yeah, not yet, not
Thank
yet.
you.
Next week can. Yeah, Juliet is our superhero today. Yeah, all right. Kala, you go for a quick last question, and then I'll thank Juliet and everyone, right? Kala, the floor is yours.
Hi, actually, just to follow up from the last question. So let's say you're actually working with someone who's disabled, and basically there is no opportunity for them to, come out of the whole, maybe they can't express and they can't change their tone of language, tone of voice. So what happens then? What can we do in terms of, because let's say they have a condition or something that prevents them from actually having any expression or any hand gestures.
Okay, so yeah, if the face is not conveying much, right, because of a condition, right, and perhaps they cannot move their body parts, right, then you may you may like to work with the words, but you may use pictures, perhaps, right, present pictures to access to unleash their imagination or their intuition, right? And you may invite them to breathe all the same, to mobilize the inside of their body, even if they are paralyzed, right? Outward, inside they are very mobile, very well alive, right? And so I would expect that this invitation, right, to reach to the inner knowledge, right, does not need them to be outwardly mobile, in fact, right? And then you will only get the insight they gain through their words, but that will be very beautiful and powerful already, Kala, right? Yeah?
Yeah,
And
so sorry, go ahead.
I want to thank everyone. I've got to go. I'm running out of time. My day is not finished, right? So thanks for the invitation, Ashwarya. It was such a pleasure to be with you today. Thanks for everyone for taking your time, and a big, big, big thank you to Juliet for being my wonderful partner today. I want to wish you all a very happy, healthy year, and safe as well to everyone, right? And offer you my very best wishes for the new year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you so much, JF. I would like to take just 1 second to thank you both. Juliet, for being such an amazing client. And thank you so much, JF, to just give us such a great perspective of what more can be done in coaching industry and coaching world. So I will not take any more of your time. We have already crossed 10 minutes more, but I'm just going to stay here for everyone else who has to fill their CCEU forms to get the certificate. So thank you so much to all the audience as well who have attended the seminar today. I'll just stay here so you guys can fill the form.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you all soon. Bye-bye.